Good day, Black Knight scholars. Welcome to another World History 2 VidNotes video. Please get out your VidNotes packet and turn to page number 8 of this Unit 1 packet entitled The Modern World. Today, we're going to be talking about modern terrorism. And you see on your screen two examples of modern terrorism in the United States. U.S. President George W. Bush, 9 days after 9/11, the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, he gave a speech, and he used the word terror, terrorist, or terrorism 32 times. I want to play for you an excerpt from that speech.
On September the 11th, enemies of freedom committed an act of war against our country. Americans have known wars, but for the past 136 years, they have been wars on foreign soil, except for one Sunday in 1941. Americans have known the casualties of war, but not at the center of a great city on a peaceful morning. Americans have known surprise attacks, but never before on thousands of civilians. All of this was brought upon us in a single day, and night fell on a different world.
All right, George W. Bush, our president during 9/11, used terror, terrorist, or terrorism 32 times, but he never defined what terrorism is. So I'm going to attempt today to offer a definition for terrorism. What is terrorism? It is the planned, purposeful use of violence and threats to intimidate and coerce. Coerce, to put pressure on. Terrorism can be driven by extreme views in religion, politics, or social values. And what are the types of terrorism? Well, car bombings, suicide bombings, airline hijackings, those are 3 examples. And you see from this pie graph organized by the FBI that hijackings are very infrequent, but car bombings are most frequent. Why does terrorism occur in the first place? Well, both developed and developing nations have problems that are brought about by injustices in economies, in the treatment of cultures, and in the social order. People feel like outcasts in their country or their region. Maybe their culture is a minority. Maybe they feel that they don't have a voice, or maybe they feel that generations of their families have been poor. Some choose to deal with these unequal conditions through terrorism. Not all terrorists look like this man. It's important to remember that so that stereotypes don't start to develop in our minds. Some terrorists do look like this man. We're going to talk about both Timothy McVeigh and Osama Bin Laden today. First, September 11th, 2001. Who was involved in this terrorist attack on America? 19 terrorists from Al-Qaeda, led by Osama Bin Laden. How was this terrorist attack carried out? Well, hijacked planes. There were 4 passenger airliners that were hijacked, and they were traveling from the East Coast, United States, to California. 2 airplanes crashed into the World Trade Center in New York. 1 crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and 1 crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. What was the damage done? 2,996 people died. Most of these people were civilians, citizens in the US. This map shows you those airplanes and how they reached their final resting place. Let's start in DC. This was the plane that crashed into the Pentagon, and you see how it turned around as terrorists hijacked it. The plane that crashed in Pennsylvania originated in Newark, New Jersey, and then was hijacked. And the two planes that crashed into the World Trade Center in New York City, they originated in Boston, and they were hijacked and flown to New York. The Pentagon was attacked in Washington, D.C., this symbol of our military power. And I'm about to show you a security camera video from that morning, 9/11. And you see it's a very sunny morning in Washington. This is the outer walls of the Pentagon. And the security camera shows you a police cruiser passing by. And take a look at the right part of your screen. There's the airliner. Explosion. And then billowing smoke. This is what the Pentagon looked like after that moment of impact. A gaping hole in its side. Let's move north to New York on 9/11. And I'm about to play for you a series of news clips that was seen by the public on that morning.
It appears that there is more and more fire and smoke enveloping the very top of the building. And as fire crews are descending on this area, it does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God. That looks like a second plane.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
I just saw another plane coming in from the side.
You did. That was out of
yes, and that's
view.
the second explosion. You could see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center that is underway in downtown New York.
Did you hear the explosion from your position?
Yes, we did. As a matter of fact, we heard it, and because I was just like standing there pretty much looking out the window, I didn't see what caused it or if there was an impact.
So you have no idea right now?
There's another one. Another plane just hit. Right? Oh my gosh! Another plane has just hit. It hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. My God! It's right in the middle of the building.
This went into the East Tower.
Yes. Yes. Right in the middle of the building. And right now, that was definitely looked like it was on purpose.
Who's the architect of what you just saw? Osama Bin Laden. Why did he plan 9/11? 3 major reasons. He said the US should not be allies with Israel in the Middle East. Osama bin Laden also said the US military has no business being in the Middle East. He also thought American culture is and was immoral. He disapproved of American culture. He thought it was ruining the world. So those are some of the reasons Osama bin Laden wanted to attack America. We move from 9/11 to another domestic terrorist incident. It was an incident in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and it involves Timothy McVeigh, who you saw earlier. When did it happen? April 19th, 1995. Timothy McVeigh was a Gulf War military veteran, someone who served in our armed forces and who wanted revenge on the federal government. How did he carry out this bombing? Well, he detonated a car bomb in front of a federal building in Oklahoma City. And he placed the bomb in a Ryder truck that looks like this truck pictured. Here is a picture of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City. After the bombing, you see this gaping hole in its side. What was the damage? 168 people died. 19 children under the age of 6 died in this attack. Why? There was a daycare center in this building. And you see one of the infants who was picked out of the building by a firefighter. This infant died at a local hospital, unfortunately. From Oklahoma City to a terrorist attack in Germany. Terrorism at the Munich Olympics. Where is Munich? It's in the southeast corner of Germany. And you see the front page of a British newspaper, the Munich Massacre at the Games. And this is a very famous photograph of one of the terrorists masked, overlooking a balcony at the Olympic Village in Munich. When did this happen? September 5th and 6th, 1972. Where? In Munich, West Germany. At the time, Germany was divided between East and West. How did this happen? A terrorist group named Black September from Palestine kidnapped Olympians and demanded that Israel free 234 Palestinians that were jailed in Israel. All of the Olympians that were kidnapped and killed were from the country of Israel. What was the damage? There were 17 total deaths. There were 6 Israeli coaches, 5 Israeli athletes who were killed, and 5 of the Black September terrorists also killed in a shootout. And there was 1 West German police officer who was killed in that same shootout. Israel and Palestine. This conflict goes back years and years. Here is Israel in yellow, in the center of the Middle East, and in green is Palestine. Palestine and Israel have been clashing because of land and because of different religions. Palestinians are Muslim, Israelis are Jewish. So that's the reason there's been this clash for years and years. I want to show you a clip from a documentary about the Munich Games.
Okay, they just cued the doves. Here they come. There go the Bavarian doves, 5,000 of them. Symbolizing peace, brotherhood, sportsmanship, which is certainly much in evidence here today.
A generation after World War II and the Holocaust, West Germany was hoping that the Games of the 20th Olympiad would show the world a new nation, modern, vibrant, and repentant. Unlike the Games of the 11th Olympiad, a fascist fantasy come to life, held in Hitler's Berlin in 1936, these games were styled as the Serene Olympics. In the effort to create an atmosphere of inclusion and openness, the West Germans purposely tried to minimize Olympic security.
This was the coming out party for West Germany returning to the world community, and they did a fabulous job. There was only one risk in all that. The security probably wasn't at the level it should have been.
At 4:30 a.m. on September 5, 1972, 8 members of a Palestinian terrorist group known as Black September climbed an unguarded fence surrounding the Olympic Village. They made their way toward 31 Connolly Strasse, which housed, among others, 11 male members of the Israeli Olympic delegation.
I was sleeping out on the balcony. And I remember waking up and hearing this door slam as if it were some kind of fire door or something just banging shut. I thought, I've been here a couple weeks. It's the first time I've heard this sound. That's a gunshot.
The terrorists stormed the third-floor dormitory, forced open one of the bedroom doors, and began shooting.
Arab terrorists, armed with submachine guns, faces blackened, a couple of them disguised as guards or as trash men in the Olympic Village, climbed the fence, went to the headquarters of the Israeli team, and immediately killed one man, Moshe Weinberg, a coach, 2 shots in the head, 1 in the stomach. And the latest report is that 1 more has been killed.
The facts started to emerge through the afternoon. The Palestinians had captured 11 Israeli men. 2 were killed almost instantly. 9 were secured as prisoners inside their dormitory.
The Black September terrorists negotiated with German police, and they were escorted to an airport, and they were guaranteed that they would be put on a plane. The police tricked them, and there was a shootout at the airport, and unfortunately the terrorists killed all of the hostages, and most of the terrorists died in that shootout. Moving on, we talked about 3 terrorism incidents, and now we're going to talk about how we should respond to modern terrorism. How has the US responded to modern terrorism? Well, there have been heightened security at home, and we have increased government surveillance and the giving up of some privacy rights. And you see here our reality now. A young woman is patted down at an airport for security reasons. Is this security guard violating privacy rights? That's the question that we still are debating today. Now, out of 9/11 comes a law called the USA Patriot Act. Now, USA Patriot Act, it stands for Uniting and Strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. This bill was signed into law 1 month after 9/11. It was a response to terrorism. And it was strongly supported by political leaders in the United States. For example, 98 out of 99 US senators voted for it. And you see President George W. Bush signing this bill into law with a desk that says protecting the homeland. We wanted to prevent another September 11th terrorist attack on US soil. What does the USA Patriot Act do? Well, there are 2 major points from this act. First, it gives law enforcement power to jail citizens based on suspicion of terrorist activity without a trial by jury. It also gives law enforcement power to monitor telephone records, emails, and internet activity without court approval. There are supporters of this law. Some say the Patriot Act protects us all. Since 9/11, we have not had a major terrorist attack in the US. Critics of the Patriot Act have said the government is given too many rights, and we have been violated. It says the Patriot Act is watching you. This person obviously feels like the Patriot Act has violated his privacy. The question becomes now, and the open debate is, should the US devote money and troops to help fight international terrorism? Here's a picture that shows members of ISIS, a terrorist group in the Middle East. Here's the ISIS flag. ISIS stands for Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. President Obama has answered this question by saying, we will send troops into Iraq to help fight ISIS. His dilemma, as this article from the Washington Post says is, how do you shore up the country's, Iraq's, fragile government without being pulled more deeply into a war he, Obama, never wanted? How do you manage this? Well, the question is answered by politicians. Who elects politicians? We do. So it's up to us to listen to our political leaders and to vote them in office or out of office, depending on how we answer this question. Lesson 4 is drawing to a close. Before you're done with your notes, please turn to page 9 and please fill out that summary question of your VidNotes. Once you're done with that summary question, lesson 4 is complete for you. Until next time, be well. Mr. Deegan, signing off.